When looking for the king of podcasts, you're at the wrong channel.
Well, excuse me!
Looking for good ideas for life? You're far from good hands.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
If you think the listener is always right, you're far from the right place.
Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works!
Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, but a rebel by choice.
Are you threatening me?
If you want a host that floats between love and madness,
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite, looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
All right, guys, listen to this blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Within the gaming world, there are your general gamers, but then there are those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming. If you're one of those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming, we certainly got the place to send you. Scorpion Lair Games. That's right, Scorpion Lair Games is the creators of the true crime hit Killers, the card game. Let's not forget they also have Killers Clothing Company, the profiler game, and things like the 5-Minute Murder channel on YouTube. And we certainly can't forget the new book that is certainly a hit, Beyond the Headliners, True Crimes, Myths, and Legends. Make sure you visit Jeff and the Scorpion Lair Games on Facebook and everywhere today.
This is Nelson Aspen. You're listening to Crazy Train Radio.
Hey folks, it's your least favorite host in the podcast world, Croc, Jonathan Steele. And boy, do we have a good one for you today.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this next guest has multiple books out, but we will be diving into all of that because, let's see, the first one being Kindred Spirits, a Titanic Tale, historical fantasy. It spans, over the Titanic. We'll leave it at that. I don't want to rub it all in. But then there is another set of books that this next guest has, and that being the Raindrop Trilogy. So we'll get into all this, his media careers. There's just a lot to talk about. Mr. Nelson Aspen, how are you, sir?
Hello. Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
I'm well. Thank you for having me. There is a lot to talk about. I sure do keep busy.
No, not at all. Not from what I read on the internet. You mean to tell me all that's 100% accurate?
But you know what? I think pretty much everything, you can just absolutely believe everything you read on the internet.
No, well, I'll say it. No shit. No.
I'll tell you,
No.
you can believe everything on nelsonaspen.com. How about that? If you go to my website, at least there is one safe place left on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah, we'll wind it down just a little bit as I do my Chris Farley. They won't see the video. I'm doing my from Tommy Boy, but all joking aside. And it's funny, and I didn't realize this until I did some of that reading. You were from kind of close to me. I'm in the Philadelphia area. You were born in Westchester.
I
So,
was, that is true. And in the book Kindred Spirits, a Titanic Tale, it's a historical fantasy about a very well-known figure from Titanic history. If anybody is into Titanic history, they would know the name Jack Thayer, and he was from the Philadelphia area, as am I. But the central character of the book is a lesser-known passenger by the name of Milton Long. And Milton perished in the disaster. Jack Thayer survived, but met with a very sad ending because, as a lot of people may not be aware, that the Titanic was such an epic tragedy that just surviving did not gift you a happily ever after. You would have post-traumatic shock syndrome. You would have unbelievable stress and survivor's guilt, especially if you were a man, because the men were supposed to be gallant and let the women and children go first. So even if Jack Thayer sort of accidentally survived. Anyway, in the plot of Kindred Spirits, a Titanic Tale, the journey goes from the ship to New York City, to Philadelphia, and also to Massachusetts, where Milton was from. So it's a bit of a mystery, all based on a true story. So whether or not you are a Titanic historian or just a fan of the, sort of Edwardian romance of it all, there's something for everyone. I would caution, however, unlike my new children's book, which we can talk about later, Kindred Spirits and my trilogy of the Dancing Between the Raindrops trilogy are all very adult, over 18 books. They're rather explicit because, as my late great mentor, the novelist Jackie Collins, used to tell me, that you should really put sex into all your books. Sex sells. And even if people claim to be offended by the sex, they still want a reason to be offended. They want to read the naughty parts and at least judge you for that. So I always tell people, there was sex on the Titanic. People they think of bodices and girdles. And they think of Kate Winslet getting strapped into her corset. But you have to remember, people were people, and my book is a very sexy take on the Titanic.
Well, it sounds like Jackie was a very bright woman because sex does sell. But since we're on the topic, what led you to have an interest in the Titanic and putting that book together?
Yeah, well, I have been a lifelong Titanic enthusiast, but it goes a little bit beyond the history and the, little boys love disasters. I mean, every kid wants to play Godzilla and step on the buildings or fire engines or some sort of action and disaster. And Titanic and ships in general, maritime disasters, always interested me from the time I saw the Poseidon Adventure when I was 8 years old, the great Irwin Allen film about a capsized ocean liner. So I've been fascinated with ocean liners, and especially ones that ended up in shipwrecks. And through a series of coincidences, dreams, serendipity, little accidental things that happen in the sliding doors of our lives, I came to become obsessed with this one particular passenger on Titanic, a rather obscure passenger named Milton Long from Springfield, Massachusetts. He perished at the age of 29. And as I detail in the book, through a series of events over the course of my life, and I'm 63 almost, so these things are still happening to me. And I'm not a paranormal kind of guy. However, the evidence continues to suggest to me that I was Milton in a past life. So I'm trying to give Milton his moment in the spotlight. And because he lived in such a repressive, restrictive era, and I do not, I am anything but repressed, I let Milton have his next life through me and solve the mystery of what happened to his unrequited love. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, whether you're interested in it for the history or the fantasy.
So, with you saying that you're 63, should I call you on your birthday with a keyboard and start doing the Beatles song when I'm 64?
Well, next year, not this
Yeah.
year.
That's what I'm saying. When we get there, yeah, be prepared now.
Hey, I'm just happy I've made it this far.
Yeah. So, last thing on the Kindred Spirits, and I found this out earlier today, which, if it's the case, kudos that apparently your book is being adapted into a screenplay.
That is true. I'm waiting with bated breath for the first draft, which should be ready any day now. And it's interesting. You know, I had a 30-year career in television as an entertainment reporter, so I know how show business works. And I was not, I did not write this book with aspirations of a film adaptation. I sort of figure, well, after James Cameron, who needs another Titanic movie? Although I host a podcast called Titanic Talk with a friend of mine, Alexandra Boyd, and we're sort of always amazed at the bottomless well of interest in Titanic. We thought we were going to do 10 episodes. We did 60. We're coming back for season 4. I wrote the book. I thought, okay, that's my little slice of Titanic legacy. And then as fate would have it, and fate never ceases to delight and surprise me, the book fell into the hands of a gentleman named Jude Gerard Prest, who is distinguished in the Titanic community because he was an executive producer for the Netflix documentary Titan, OceanGate Disaster, which you may have seen. A lot of people did see it. It was a big hit. But it was about the submersible Titan implosion. We all remember that story of the little tin can submarine that went down to the Titanic wreck and imploded, killing the 5 passengers. And Jude had been on that submersible 3 dives and was working on a documentary about the company. And then when that disaster happened, he altered his plans and made the documentary about the disaster. He was in a unique position to do that. So he read my book and he wanted to adapt it. And he's a gifted, award-winning screenwriter, so I trust him completely. I have no possessive nature. Oh, it's my book, my baby, I've got to write it. No, let him have it. So I'm really excited about that. And and it's not trying to be a James Cameron blockbuster with special effects. It's a very human story about Milton and Jack that also comes into present day. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Jude handles adapting my book.
But hey, we're not going to say no if it happens to do James Cameron numbers,
That would be a miracle, but we'll see. I'm just happy to be at the party.
Hey, let's be hopeful, So, well, let's shift gears a little bit. You mentioned your children's book, and if I remember correctly, that came out on Earth Day. So
it did. It came out April 22nd, which was Earth Day, and it's called The Magnificent Mr. and Mrs. Maple. And I think Jackie Collins would be very disappointed in me because this one is squeaky clean, rated G, and I say it's for ages 4 to 104 because the message is the same, and it's a message about separation and that a family can still be a family even if they're not all under the same roof. And we certainly live in an era of blended families. I'm from a blended family, so I know what that's all about. And then, as my parents aged into their 90s, they had to, my mom had to go to an assisted living place. Every family deals with this at one time or another. So there's that message there. So I've been doing readings not only for kids, but at nursing homes as well, because the artwork is magnificent. I'm so proud of the artist and her magical work. But it's based on all the flora and fauna of my own New York City rooftop garden. I have a Mr. Mapletree, and he's married to Mrs. Mapletree. And there's characters that represent the boxwood plants, the juniper plants. We've got Sally the spider and a nosy bumblebee named Nosy, and a pigeon. and all these little critters, and they coexist and they become a family. And I won't spoil the plot, but Mr. and Mrs. Maple are forced to separate. And I can tell you, I'm broadcasting to you right now from my home. I'm looking right now at Mrs. Maple out on my terrace. And when we finish, I'm going to go up to my rooftop garden and visit Mr. Maple. They don't get to be together, but it doesn't mean they're not a family.
Absolutely not. It certainly means they can be a family, even if things look a little different. That is for sure. But I'm curious to know, with the Raindrops Trilogy you got going on here, you have the latest edition that came out recently, but you have, for the way I take it, is 3 different eras of the story being told. So,
correct.
What can you tell me about that? And when I say that, folks, there's Dancing Between the Raindrops, the Hollywood Years, then the latest version, Happily Ever After. So, what can you
I
tell me
never
about the
expected
series?
it to be a series. I mean, maybe that's how J.K. Rowling felt about Harry Potter. You only set out to write the one book, and as my TV time, my 3 decades of morning television, as that was winding down, I was getting a lot of requests. Oh, you should write an autobiography. I've interviewed every celebrity under the sun. I've had amazing adventures around the world, celebrity geared. And I thought, and I teach university classes and I give keynote speeches about how to approach a career in the entertainment industry. And basically, I've carved out my own niche. So I thought, well, okay, I'll entertain the idea of writing an autobiography. However, growing up a sort of wild child in the 1980s in New York City, after I moved away from Westchester, Pennsylvania, the nanosecond I graduated high school at 16. I moved here right after my 17th birthday. I couldn't remember everything to a T. And I think if you're going to write an autobiography, you really should be completely 100% accurate. So I decided to fictionalize the names, rearrange some of the events, change a few things to protect the guilty. And I wrote Dancing Between the Raindrops. And it's a lot of fun. It's basically like Sex and the City. It's the story of 4 friends, and it's a time capsule of 1980s New York. Well, that covered the period of 1980 to 1990. And that's when I moved to Hollywood. I moved to Hollywood in 1990. And so the second book, Dancing Between the Raindrops, The Hollywood Years, covers my 20 years in Los Angeles, which included working very closely on stories like the O.J. Simpson trial, the Michael Jackson death, the investigation, all the riots, the LA riots, the earthquake, but I take my 4 main characters and off we go to Los Angeles. And then the third book, now that I had 2 down, I was like, well, I've got to finish my story. So the third book is the one that's just out now, and it completes the trilogy. And that's Dancing Between the Raindrops, Happily Ever After. Spoiler alert, I've lived happily ever after. And that deals with, approaching middle age, forced reinvention, and dealing with, and that takes you all through COVID and how I came to leave my much loved position on Australian morning television, where I was for 19 and a half years. So they're all Jackie Collins approved, naughty, racy, and for adults only. But I'm hoping now that we've got the 3 of them together, that we can sell that as a series, not just as a book series, but as why not a streaming series, and relive my life over the course of 50 years through the eyes with the audience along for the ride.
Well, as a journalist and interviewer and all that fun stuff, and I've changed my voice slightly over the years because it's what you do, right? But how would you say your voice was with what you did over the years with the different shows and stuff?
Well, when I started out, I had set out after school to become an actor. And my first professional job, really, as an adult anyway, young adult, was on a television soap opera. And I liked television. I was a TV fan growing up. My parents would trot me out to recite the TV guide because I knew what was on every channel at every hour of every day. So I was a big TV fanatic. So having a job on a soap opera was terrific. And I sort of exhausted all the TV shows in New York. And so that's when I moved to Los Angeles to, pursue that. And I fell into morning television. I was hired to train Princess Diana. This is all in the book. I was hired to train Princess Diana in fitness because I became a fitness instructor to pay the bills. Some actors wait tables. I taught aerobics. So while I was in London to train Princess Diana, I appeared on the morning television show, and I was very young and cute, and my butt looked good in the Lycra, and I had long flowing mullet hair, because I was, 25, 26. And they put me on the British morning show where I stayed for 10 years. And my reporting was very silly. It was about fitness stuff. It was about wacky, only in Los Angeles, Hollywood stuff. So when I moved to the Australian morning show, where I stayed for 20 years, then I evolved into serious journalism, even though it was entertainment. And a lot of people dismiss entertainment as fluff. But I was not fluff. I was a serious journalist, and people care about entertainment as much as they care about sports and weather and politics. It's an important genre to many people. So yeah, that's how my voice changed. I went from being an actor, where I wanted it all to be about me, to being a frothy, funny. I was the comic value. I was the funny guy. And then I became the journalist, where it's not at all about you. It's about the person on the other side. So it has been an interesting arc, and the 3 books delve into that.
And on the interview side of things, you've talked to people such as Dick Van Dyke, Julie Andrews, Farrah Fawcett, all the way to, guys and gals like Hugh Jackman, Miley Cyrus. I don't know why I can't talk today. But, you covered the gamut. So is there and I know this is a difficult question, but is there somebody that's been a favorite or several favorites?
Sure. And people always want to know who's the best, who's the worst, who's your favorite, who's your least favorite, all that kind of stuff. After thousands of celebrity interviews over the years, it's very clear to me, my favorite stars are usually the older ones. The Betty Whites, the Meryl Streeps, the Julie Andrews, the Anthony Hopkins, the Clint Eastwood, the Dick Van Dykes, because they've had the most experience. They've seen it all. They know where all the bodies are buried, and they're not afraid to talk about it. They're not self-conscious the way that a young star is, where they're, so consumed with their self-image that they are reserved. They're very forthright, and they've got the best stories, and we establish a rapport, and that turns into repeat business. Like, I've interviewed Meryl Streep 6 times, Julie Andrews 8 times, Hugh Jackman, I can't even count how many times. So you build up a relationship with these people, and they trust you. And the more they trust you, the better the interviews get. It becomes a deeper connection, as it would with any relationship.
So, obviously, on the celebrity front, I got to ask, because again, what you read may or may not be true. You've been known to have a little fun along the way, and I heard there might be a practical joke with some friends you met along the way.
Oh, I certainly don't pull pranks on celebrities. That's not a very good recipe for success. However, celebrities have been known to pull pranks on journalists, and that case in point was one time I was set to interview a double header. I was going to be interviewing Margot Robbie with Tina Fey. And I came in, I had my questions ready. I was prepared. I was ready to go. And they stopped me. And I'd interviewed Tina before, and Margot was Australian. So Margot knew me, like she'd grown up watching me on television. So I felt very comfortable with them. And all of a sudden, as I was preparing to start to ask them questions, they pulled out notes from underneath their chairs and had questions for me. And they wanted to, that was their gimmick for this interview, is that they wanted to interview me, which was very cute and very fun. And they just, speaking of the internet reliability, that whoever prepared their questions for them literally just did a Google search of my name. So it was not very accurate. But they should leave the journalism to the real journalists.
Absolutely. So can you talk about, if this is true at least, the relationship and friendship you built over time with Jamie Lee Curtis?
Oh yeah, it's funny. So you never know how things are going to develop. In 1991, let's say 1991, I had just moved to Los Angeles. I moved to Los Angeles November 1st, 1990, and sometime the next year, I got a guest star role. Remember, I wanted to be an actor. I got a guest star part on Jamie Lee's sitcom, which was called Anything But Love. She co-starred with Richard. Oh shoot, what was his name? Richard Lewis. And I was playing teen Richard Lewis in a flashback. We had similar hair because I had all this beautiful flowing locks back then. Anyway, Jamie Lee was, as she freely admits, in the throes of her substance abuse at the time. And I remember as a guest star, it was a very unhappy experience for me. I was so excited to have my sort of first sitcom job in Hollywood. And Jamie Lee was not in a good place. Flash forward, 20 years, and I'm interviewing her for something, and I mentioned, this isn't the first show. She's like, nice to meet you. I said, this isn't the first time we've met. I was on an episode of Anything But Love with you. And she was like, you were? What? Remind me. And she goes, I apologize. I was in a different world back then. And she overcompensated to make me sort of a preemptive apology. She wanted so badly to, make amends for her past behaviors, which I wouldn't have held it against her, but it created a special bond between us. And so that every time I would go on to interview her, and I always got approved, anytime I wanted to interview her, I got to interview her. She was very warm and very affectionate. That might not surprise you because she does come across that as that kind of a person. And then even one time I got to go, I think it was South Carolina. She was filming the first of the Halloween reboot. The one where her character, Laurie Strode, is a mother and she and her daughter are terrorized. And they brought me down to South Carolina. And it was just so special to have that time with her and bond. Flash forward to 2020. Was it 2020 or 2019? I remember she was being honored by the Publicists Guild Award with a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I was a nominee for the International Journalist of the Year. I didn't win that year. I won the following year. But in 2019, we bumped into each other on the red carpet. And I wasn't working the red carpet. I was a guest because I was a nominee. So I was walking the red carpet. And so was she. And it was really, for me, a moment of, gosh, maybe I've achieved something in my life. Maybe I've arrived in Hollywood after all these years. And she just gave me a big hug and a kiss on the red carpet. And maybe that was my good luck charm, because even though I didn't win my prize that night, I won it the following year. After 5 nominations, I was like the Susan Lucci of the journalism awards, but I finally did. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Jamie Lee's and very impressed at how she's managed to survive and thrive.
Yeah, and Hollywood's a bumpy road that many people don't realize. So, final question for you, sir. And before I do that, can you mention a website and all again?
Oh, yeah, Nelson Aspen. It's everything, all my books. I've got 12 books now. I think I'm done. I think I'm tired. I need a vacation. That said, I'm always on the move. I'm taking NelsonAspen.com. Yeah, social media, website, Nelson Aspen. I'm the easiest person in the world to find. But yeah, and now I'm traveling to promote the books. I'm taking Titanic-minded people on a tour of Ireland in October, and I've locked into a really nice relationship with Cunard Cruises, and I work as a keynote speaker. I've been on the Queen Anne, the Queen Mary II, and in December I will be on the Queen Elizabeth. speaking about Titanic, speaking about the entertainment industry and the books. And it's a marvelous way to travel, to meet new people, and to talk about all these passions of mine. Of course, the Titanic podcast is always available for download. And yeah, it's very good. And The Magnificent Mr. and Mrs. Maple, I never expected to write a children's book. And that has really became an Amazon bestseller, I'm proud to say. And the very prestigious and fancy schmancy East Hampton Authors Night is the social event of the summer season. That's coming up August 8th and 9th. And they've invited me to participate alongside Susan Lucci, Robert Caro, Carol Leifer, really a really eclectic and distinguished group of authors I'm very honored to be among.
Well, the last thing I wanted to bring up is I heard about this show that is being worked on, Sylvie and Sly.
Thank you for asking.
What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, we haven't really publicized that at all. It's a new play by a playwright named Joanna Pickering. And I was asked, it's a 2-character play, Sylvie and Sly. And I was invited to do a reading of it with a very talented daytime TV star, Eileen Kristen. People remember her from Ryan's Hope and One Life to Live, Another World, Loving. I mean, she's done them all. She was also in the original Broadway cast of Grease. I mean, she is a dynamo. And so she and I did the reading for the playwright, and it's about an older actress dying to be relevant as she's getting older. So she hires Sly to help with her social media, and they're cooking up a plan to get her famous again through social media. It's a very funny, very clever play. And so we're going to be filming it. Instead of performing it on stage, we're going to film it and release them as verticals, which it was a new medium for me. But the verticals are little 2-minute episodes that you watch on your phone. And so they'll be split into vertical episodes. And I have no details about when that's going to be available. We've been rehearsing it, and we'll be filming it, I presume, sometime very soon, because we're ready. And look out for Sylvie and Sly. I'll announce it on all my social media as soon as it's ready.
Well, Nelson, thank you so much, sir.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It's always fun to talk to you.
Hey folks, looking for the ultimate destination for the nerd enthusiasts and collectors? Well, we found the spot for you. Nerds Nest Collectibles is a haven for nerds, geeks, and fans alike, as they have many different products and certainly more to come. Make sure you go ahead and visit them at nerdsnestcollectibles.com. Check them out.
Hey, how you doing out there? This is Gary K. Wolf. I'm broadcasting from somewhere in the middle of Toontown, and I'm on Crazy Train Radio. And I got to tell you, it's crazy